Hello and welcome back to Getaway Day. This is episode 30. I am Mason. This is Gautham. Uh, and we are here to talk about the Division Series matchups. Both American League's Division Series have completed in 4 games. The National League is still going on. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. But before we get to that, if you enjoy our podcast, please subscribe or feel free to subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube so that you never miss a new episode. Make sure to hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube so that you get the notification when we post again. And then keep up with us on Facebook and Twitter at Getaway Day Pod. We've been doing things a little bit out of the normal recently. Today is Tuesday when we're recording this, so if that's not weird, then I don't know what is. But yeah, so you could, whenever we change things up like that, the first place we put it is on our social media, so make sure to check us out there. Yeah, so Gowie, how are you doing today? How have you been enjoying the playoff series so far?
I have been enjoying them greatly. I've been basically living postseason baseball in the last week. Now, it feels like it's been a month, to be honest. But the playoffs started just last Tuesday with the wild card game, the first wild card game. It feels like it's been a lot longer than that because so much has happened. It's been a lot of really intense games, and looking forward to it continuing on here for the next few weeks.
Same. And intense is definitely the right word to use to describe it because there's been crazy plays, crazy calls that we've never seen before that nobody knows the rule about. Yeah. And so everyone, announcers, fans, players, managers, some of the umpires are all incredibly confused. They managed to figure it out and get the call right. I'm talking specifically about the play out in, I think it was in Boston.
Yep.
Yeah.
Over the short right field wall, 5-foot wall.
Yeah.
Absurd play that no one had ever seen. I feel like this is the only sport where a play that no one's ever seen in their life happens in like a huge spot in a playoff game.
Yeah. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically what had happened is somebody hit the ball. I don't remember who.
Kevin Kiermaier.
Kiermaier hit the ball. It bounced off the wall and off the top of Renfroe's leg and then back over the wall.
Yeah, so it bounced off the wall and then just Renfroe inadvertently pushed it over the wall. He had no idea that he was doing that at all. So it wasn't like there was any intent to it, but it went out of play, and that creates an automatic double because it was not a fielded ball, and that's just the way it's written in the rule book.
But
completely.
It's different from the Jose Canseco play because this one hit the wall first, right? Whereas the Jose Canseco one hit off his head and then bounced over the wall, so it was a home run. This one hit the wall, then his leg, then went over, so it was technically in play but not fielded.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Cool.
And by that rule, only one the base runner is only able to move up 2 bases. So the runner on first, who is easily going to score if the ball doesn't go out of play there, gets stuck only going to third, and then the Rays end up not scoring in the inning. So it was kind of a big deal, and they read the rule completely correctly. I just don't think it's necessarily the best rule because it just doesn't seem fair that like that run easily would have scored.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, how do you change? Like it could be entirely different if you have like Albert Pujols on first. So he would only get 2 bases. So it's like, how do you deal with that? If you change the rule and say you get 3 bases, well, would Albert have actually got 3 bases? So is that fair?
Maybe that's a spot where the umpires can kind of use some of the discretion to make that call. And the runner was basically at third base by the time the ball had gone over the wall. So there was absolutely no way he wasn't going to score on that play.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I could definitely see at the same time, if it was umpire's discretion, there's going to be a lot of angry people because they'll say it should only be 2 bases, even though umpire's discretion, he would have scored, sort of thing. So it's one of those you can't win either way type of rules, I think. But
No,
I'll be
definitely not.
interested to see if they bother to change it, because chances we ever see that again are pretty small.
Right. And it's also contingent on that play happening in Boston, because that's one of the only spots where that wall is so low where the ball could actually go over after deflecting off the fielder.
Oh, that's a good point. Huh. Yeah, so that's weird. But well, I guess in a way it ultimately mattered because Tampa lost that game and then lost the series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so Boston won that series in 4. Oh shoot, I had it pulled up. Let's see. So, they lost game one, or they sorry. Tampa won game 1 5-0, and then the Red Sox took game 2 14-6. Then the Red Sox took game 3 6-4 and game 5 6-5. So it was an eventful series. There was a lot of scoring, a lot of plays in the field. We got to see quite a few cool things. So, Gowie, who would you say was the, I guess, your hero of that series? It doesn't necessarily have to be on the winning team, but like, who was a player that did like some crazy stuff that he was a game changer in that series?
Yeah, so in game 1, like you said, the Rays won that game. They looked like they were easily going to roll over the Red Sox in the series. They shut them out. Great start from McClanahan. And a huge game from postseason legend now, Randy Arozarena, who hit a home run in the game. He also stole home in a really exciting play, just a straight steal of home. And he just continues his wizardry of the playoffs. He's played in 29 postseason games now. He already has 11 home runs, and he scored like 29 runs. He also had a huge game-tying single in Game 4 last night to help the Rays finish their comeback to tie the game at 5. They ended up losing, but Randy was not the reason why the Rays lost this series. He was great.
Yeah, and right up there with him. This isn't my pick, but Wander Franco was equally phenomenal for Tampa, and definitely deserves some props for how he played in his first playoff experience there at the age of 20. So I think he had 2 home runs and got on base a lot of times, and he was always doing something. My pick is actually coming from Boston. The hottest hitter in the postseason so far in Kiké Hernandez. Kiké started out the series pretty slow. He had an 0 for 4 day in game 1, but then game 2 he went off for a 5 for 6 with that the out being his first at bat of the day, and then followed it up going 3 for 6 the next day with the 3 hits being his first 3 at bats. So he had 8 consecutive hits, which I believe is a postseason record, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and in those 8 hits, 2 of them were for home runs, and they were pretty big home runs. I think they were both 2-run shots, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Kiké was just phenomenal in this series, and he was game changer in the wild card game, I believe, as well. Had a pretty timely hit that he didn't drive in any runs, but I think he scored a couple times. He scored 1 time in the wild card game. But yeah, so I expect Kiké to keep playing really well here in the championship series. So on the other end of things, who didn't do so well in that series?
Yeah, so in our preview of the division series, I talked about Brandon Lowe, who was coming in really hot. He had that 3 home run game in the last week of the season. Hit a ton of home runs this season, but he really struggled in the playoffs last year. And I said, I think he could be a difference maker in the series if he is able to break out of his slump in the postseason. Brandon Lowe did not break out of that slump at all. He struck out a whole bunch of times. He did not have a hit at all in the series, and the Red Sox really won this series. They absolutely deserved to win this series. They scored a ton of runs. They got some timely pitching performances. But the Rays, to keep pace, they needed more offense, especially coming from one of their better players in Brandon Lowe, and they didn't get it.
Yeah. The guy that they rode to the best record in baseball on 39 home runs. He was the core of their offense this year. So him not showing up, it's not surprising that they couldn't quite get over the hump there. Yeah. So my zero, I guess, if you want to call him that, was also in a way my pick for matchup to watch in the preview. Technically, my pick was Boston's pitching staff and defense combined, but Boston really, really needed more from Chris Sale than they got. Chris Sale he pitched in game two, and he only made it one inning. He gave up 5 earned runs on 4 hits, 1 home run, got 2 strikeouts, but he was getting hit all over the yard, and they yanked him immediately when they got down by 5. And that put a lot of strain on their bullpen. So the fact that their bullpen managed to hold it together for the next 3 games, or that game and the next 2, really impressed me. And I actually have a lot more faith in that bullpen going into the next series now, because they do get a couple days rest. So I think they should be fresh and ready for the championship series.
Yeah. And speaking of Sale, they definitely need him. We'll get into it when we do preview the upcoming series, but they need a lot more than 1 inning of giving up 5 runs from Chris Sale if they're going to have any chance of competing with the Astros.
Yeah, they lucked out, and that day he gave up 5 in the first inning, but they put up 14 on the game. So
yeah, kind of at that point, right there in the first inning, they staked him to a 2-run lead. Then he comes out and he gives up 5 right there, and it's looking like the Rays are just gonna have no trouble at all finishing the series off in 3 games. But things really turned from there, and the Red Sox offense just took over completely.
Yeah. Let's see. And then that's kind of the big stuff that I had on that series. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the Red Sox Rays?
Yeah, just one more thing on the Rays that we haven't really touched on here, but the kind of balance between experience and just the availability of pitchers that the Rays had for them. They obviously were a great team in the regular season with their pitching, but it seemed like they didn't have really the depth to cover all the innings that they needed to, especially with the 13-inning game in Game 3. They were really strained, and then none of their starting pitchers, other than McClanahan in the first game, went 5 innings. So that was a big deal.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, some of those two of the starters they threw out there, and Shane Baz and Drew Rasmussen, are also rookies. Like, McClanahan's a rookie, but the other two
he's
guys
had a little bit more experience. Baz has pitched 3 games in the regular season. Rasmussen just became a starter.
Yeah, so they were putting a lot of faith in these young guys, and they're really, really talented young guys. So they're probably going to end up being fine long term and be really good starting pitchers. But in this particular series, it kind of bit them in the butt. And I guess, so would you say that experience is like a huge important factor for a team in the postseason, just in general?
I think in general it's becoming less and less important, and I think we'll get to this as we talk about the other series, but teams are really trusting young players who have not had much postseason experience a lot, because they a lot of times are the best options. The Red Sox best relief pitcher is Garrett Whitlock, who was a Rule 5 pick rookie. So it's not like the teams are scared to use a young player because that player may be the best for the spot.
Yeah.
And even on the Rays side, like Wander Franco showed that he could absolutely dominate the postseason stage, even though he's not even played half a season in the big leagues.
Yeah, so I definitely do think that that it's not necessarily a requirement to be on a postseason roster, but I do think there is a large benefit to having, even if it's not like postseason experience necessarily, but having a long track record in the big leagues and being in these high pressure situations. Because these other teams that are playing really well, the Houston Astros, half those guys have already been, well, half those guys have won a World Series. Some people want to put an asterisk on it, but they still won a World Series, and that's a lot of pressure, and they're playing like this is any other day. They seem so stress-free. And then you have some of these other teams like the Chicago White Sox that have a lot of younger guys. They've not really been there before. I think they only won one game in the postseason last year. They only won one game in this series. And so their lack of experience kind of showed through in a couple of spots for me personally. Like just watching it, I kind of just felt that way. So I don't know. I do think that it's not a requirement to have experience to be good in the playoffs, but I think there's a large benefit to it. So it's kind of more the anomaly than the rule when you have a guy like Randy Arozarena and Wander Franco who come out and just dominate right off the bat. So
let's talk about the Astros. Speaking of really experienced playoff teams, the Astros are now going to their 5th straight ALCS, so they know what it's like to play in these games.
They're the third team in history to make 5 straight championship series. It was the 90s Braves and the 70s. Oh shoot, I can't even think of what team it was now. Tigers or the White Sox or something.
I don't know.
It wouldn't have been the White Sox in the 70s. That was a dumb statement on my part. It was the A's.
Okay.
So yeah, so the 70s A's. Yeah, so huge accomplishment there. And Houston dominated this series. Like it didn't even look close to me. Let's see. Houston won game 1 6-1. They won game 2 9-4. They lost game 3 in Chicago 12-6, and then they closed out the series today after the rainout yesterday by winning 10-1 to put Chicago to bed. So, who was your hero in that series, Gowie?
My hero was Kyle Tucker. He dominated the series. He had 5 hits. He had 2 home runs, including a big one in game 2 to put a game out of reach. He had 2 stolen bases today when the pitcher and catcher couldn't get on the same page really and weren't paying him any attention. And then the most crazy thing about Tucker is that he's their number 6 or number 7 hitter on a regular day. So it's like, this guy's incredible, and he's not even like in the real heart of the order there.
Yeah, it's their lineup is so deep that this guy who's been incredibly underrated the whole season. I think he was so underrated. Did we even talk about him in our underrated episode?
We didn't talk about him in that, but we talked about him last week when we were previewing this series.
That's true. But he's been so good the whole season, and he's their number 7 or 8 hitter. It's just crazy. That's how deep that lineup is behind guys like Correa, Bregman, Altuve, Alvarez, Yuli. But
yeah, it just goes on and on.
Yeah, pretty much the only person who's not like an elite hitter is whoever they've got in center that day.
And Martin Maldonado, who even had a hit today.
That's a good point. Yeah, Martin is not a good hitter. Great defender.
Yeah, they can afford to have one down spot in the lineup, though.
Yeah, that's why you keep him, is because your team is so stacked that you want his defense. Yeah, no, Kyle Tucker's a great pick. My hero is a guy who pitched 2 starts in this series for Houston, and that's Lance McCullers. So McCullers in game 1 through 6 2/3 innings of 4 hit baseball, gave up 0 earned runs. Started out that series real strong for the Astros. And then he came out and pitched starting today. He threw 4 innings and gave up 1 run on a home run to Gavin Sheets, and then settled in and cruised through 4. He had a great end to the 4th inning, having a strikeout that looked really, really nice, and he looked locked in. And then he came in and didn't go back out. So it was a little bit concerning because he was cruising. He only threw, I think it was 73 pitches. Yeah, 73 pitches. But he got pulled, and I believe it was for forearm tightness. So that could
Yeah,
be
that's what Dusty mentioned in the post game. So that's a big one for watching for the next series because he was by far their most trustworthy pitcher that they have. And that game 1 start was huge because we talked about the Astros bullpen being kind of one of their weak spots, and he was able to go 6 2/3 in that game and really save the bullpen for the following games.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's a huge part to that, and he's kind of on that more experienced side. I think he was there and for the World Series, and I think did he start the last game or did he close the last game? Because he did a split start with somebody where they got 4, he got 4.
He started either Game 7 of the World Series or Game 7 of the Championship Series, and then he got the save in the other one.
Okay.
So he's pitched in like Game 7s in really big spots.
Yeah, and so he's huge to this rotation that's really young behind guys like Framber Valdez, Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy, and am I missing one, or is that it?
That's all probably they're gonna need for starters. Maybe one more.
If he's down and out. For
if he's not there, then you're counting on Christian Javier maybe to make a start.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in this series in particular, hero. So, so now who is your? I don't want to call them zeros. That seems mean. It rhymes though, so we're gonna go with it. Who's your zero for the series?
All right, so I couldn't pick out one specific guy, but I'm just gonna pick all the White Sox starting pitchers as a whole because they did not perform. They were the best starters in the American League this year, and I thought they would have a pretty good chance even against a really good Astros offense. But that was not the case. Lance Lynn really struggled. Giolito was okay for a little bit. Then he himself ran into big problems. Dylan Cease could not go deep at all. And then Rodon, who was a complete wild card, he pitched okay to start off, but then he wasn't even able to make it through the 3rd inning. So overall in that series, White Sox starters, they have 14 runs in 12 and a third innings. That's a 10.22 ERA. So big credit to the Astros offense, obviously, but I really thought the White Sox were going to do a lot better job with their starters because they were so consistent for the entire year.
Yeah, that's I'm kind of right there with you. That's the series that I watched every single game, just because time-wise it worked out best for me, and like I was really disappointed in that White Sox rotation. It just I had really high hopes, but when Lance Lynn threw 74 of 76 fastballs and got rocked, and then you have these other guys not going very deep, it was not the rotation I was used to seeing from the White Sox. So, yeah, I'm going back to position player, for the White Sox, for my zero, and that is Leury Garcia. Leury, he did have a 2-for-5 game with a home run in game 3, but he finished the series batting .200. He didn't really do anything other than game 3. And in game 2, he had a major misplay. It wasn't ruled an error. It was ruled a double, but he had a major misplay that basically allowed Houston to blow the game wide open. So I think it was not Carlos Correa. Who was it that hit the ball?
It was Correa.
Oh, it was Correa. Yeah. So Correa hit a fly ball out to right field, and Garcia had just been thrown in the game. Is a defensive substitution, or he went from second to right.
Yeah, that's right.
And they put someone in as a defensive replacement at second, or double switch, or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, Leury ends up in right, and then the ball is immediately hit to him. He takes the weirdest route I've ever seen. It looked like he was serpentining to avoid like paintball fire or something. I don't know. But he's zigzagging back and forth trying to get back to the ball and loses it.
I gotta interrupt you with some breaking news from the Brewers-Braves game. Frederick Freeman has just gone deep off Josh Hader in the bottom of the 8th inning to break a tie here in Game 4 of the division series.
Oh, I was talking too much and didn't even see the pitch. I just saw him running around the bases right before you interrupted.
Wow.
So,
Braves are on the verge here of advancing to the next round.
Which we'll get to them in a minute because we've got some stuff to talk about there. But anyway, so Leury zigzagging across the field trying to get back to this ball, and then it gets about an inch over his glove and gets down, and he ends up giving up a two-run double to Carlos Correa to put them down 7-4 instead of catching the very routine fly ball and it being 5-4 in the 7th inning, which is very doable to come back from. And then after that, Kyle Tucker hit a 2-run home run to put the game out of reach. So it ended up finishing out 9-4, and that was probably the biggest play of that game. And if the White Sox would have won that game, we'd be talking about an entirely different series. So, all right. So I think that's all I've got for the American League. You ready to talk National League?
Let's do it.
All right. Now let's get to the Braves because this one's fun. So the Braves and Brewers are currently in Game 4. It is the bottom of the 8th as we're speaking right this second. And Atlanta is up Atlanta is up 5-4 in the 8th. There we go. Those are the words. They look to be on the verge of clinching, but this has been a kind of a weird series a little bit, in my opinion. The starters have been really good. And in Game 1, offense didn't really show up from either team. Game 2 and 3, the Brewers offense literally didn't even come to the field. And then today is 5-4 and the lead has changed like 4 times. I don't understand it. Or I guess it hasn't changed necessarily. This is the first time Atlanta's had the lead. But
they've been going back and forth.
Yeah, they trading runs. It'd been tied up like 3 times. But yeah, so in this series, who's your hero?
So my
keeping
hero,
in mind the series isn't done. So
my hero would have to be Jock Pederson, who is donning a pearl necklace as he plays.
And Anthony Rizzo's bat.
At Anthony Rizzo's bat. So he hit a home run in Game 1, ended up not helping the Braves win that game.
It's a pinch hit home run, right?
Pinch hit home run. And then he had another pinch hit home run in Game 3. It was a 3-run homer, I think, and that gave the Braves all they needed in that game. I think they won 3-0. So Jock continues to mash in the playoffs, Jocktober. And I think he has now 10 postseason home runs in his career. So looking like a really solid addition for the Braves in the midseason, getting him from the Cubs. And yeah. Oh, yeah, and one more thing about home runs in the playoffs. The team that hits the most home runs in a game has not lost a postseason game this year. So for all the talk about needing small ball and whatever nonsense John Smoltz is putting out on Fox every day. It's really not true. If you hit more home runs than the other team, you're going to win your playoff game. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. I like small ball. I find small ball fun. But yeah,
But it's not how you win.
Not that important. Yeah, so I really like the Jock pick. My pick is 2/3 of the offense for Milwaukee. And it's really easy because they have one name, and it's Rowdy Tellez. So Rowdy Tellez has hit 2 big home runs in the series. He hit a 2-run home run in game 1 that was all of Milwaukee's runs that day. And then today he hit a 2-run home run to, at the time, put Milwaukee up 4-2. So they've only scored 6 runs this entire series, getting shut out in games 2 and 3. And Rowdy has pulverized the ball twice. I think they both landed in my front yard. And one of them was hitting Milwaukee and the other one was hitting Atlanta. He's been a huge difference maker for that team because, well, they wouldn't have made it to game 4 without him. So whether or not Milwaukee wins the series, I would honestly give him series MVP if they had one for the division series games. But yeah, so MLB.com doesn't have a Rowdy Tellez page. Fun fact, it just sends you to an oof, did you type the wrong URL page whenever you click on his name to go to his stats. So apparently Rowdy is that surprising of a hero that they don't even have a stats page for him. I don't get it. But yeah, so those 2 guys have powered these 2 teams to most of the runs they have this series, I think. So I guess clicked a button. So who do you think has been kind of the most disappointing player in this series for you?
Okay, so this one is certainly clouded by recency bias, and it's going to be a kind of surprising one to you. It's a combination of Josh Hader and Craig Counsell. So the reason I say that is because when Josh Hader first came up, he was used as a multi-inning reliever, especially in the playoffs. He was pitching some crazy, like 2-3 inning stints in the playoffs, giving them amazing performances. And over the years, he's kind of been put back in the role of just pitching 1 inning, just pitching the 9th inning, focusing on that. And that's mostly because he himself said that doing all those multi-inning relief appearances was really taxing on him. And the Brewers kind of listened to him and made his life a lot easier. And he's been amazing this entire season.
And it certainly helped being able to do that having Devin Williams.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
and that formula has worked great for the Brewers. They get a lead, then they send it to their bullpen, and they almost always win their games. Where I have a problem with what they did today is after not having I don't think he had a single appearance of 2 innings this entire season. And here in this game, they put him in for the 8th inning or in the middle of the 8th inning, and he gives up the huge home run. I'm not saying it's because he was like thinking about, pitching multiple innings or whatever, but it just seems weird that after a full season of doing something one way, you completely change the way the pitcher's used in the playoff game. That just doesn't seem like it's going to benefit the player. I realize it's necessary in a playoff game, but it's why can't they get the pitchers ready to do that maybe late in the season or over the course of the season? You got to get them ready to be in the playoff circumstances.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there because I mean even like switching back to a series we just talked about, but
with McClanahan, right?
Well, I was thinking Kimbrel.
Oh, yeah.
Kimbrel was the 9th inning guy in on the north side, and he was dominant. And then he gets traded over to the White Sox, and they don't want to mess with Liam Hendriks. They want to leave him in the 9th inning role, which I 100% get for this exact reason. But you move Kimbrel into a situation he's not necessarily used to, and it changes kind of the whole mindset of things. And mindset is a big thing for pitchers, so you wouldn't think that pitching in the 8th, having a lead or having guys on base would be different than pitching in the 9th. But for some guys, it is. Their entire preparation, their just kind of mentality of, all right, when I come out, the game is over. When that's not the case, things can change and maybe you're not as effective. And so it kind of is that same thing, putting Hader back in a position he hasn't been in like 2 years. So.
Yeah. And I'll mention also McClanahan had not pitched in relief this entire year, and then they just tossed him out there in the game they needed to win, and he gave up 5 runs. So it's like, I don't get it. I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. And it was on short rest after his start too, right? So it wasn't like after his traditional rest.
It wasn't like, it wasn't a full amount of rest. So
yeah, but they also weren't expecting him to go 5 innings again. So
no.
Yeah. But yeah, the comments here, F's in the chat for Devin Williams' hand, everybody. Because Devin Williams' hand could also be treated as the 0 in this series, because I think he
literal
would have been
0.
Huge, yeah, he would have been a huge part of this, and him breaking his hand, even though it was in celebration, really hurts this team. And now it looks like they might not be able to come back out of it. They do have a man on first with 1 out in the top of the 9th, so they could tie the game up right here or take the lead with Willy Adames. But my 0 for the series, or I guess I should say my 1 for 4, or my 1 for 12 of the series. That's not. Hold on. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 is definitely not 12. MLB's website is really bad at math. All right. My 1 for 14 of the series is Kolten Wong. Kolten Wong has been a really one of the bigger parts, I think, of the Milwaukee offense this year. He was hitting like 260. I can't think.
Probably higher than that, but he had good power numbers for him, and he was really the catalyst for that offense when he was healthy.
Okay, so he was 272 with 14 home runs, 335 OPP, and a 783 OPS. And for an offense that doesn't really put up many runs, that's really important to have that guy, because like their outfield, as we talked about in the preview, hasn't been putting up a lot of runs this year, hasn't been very helpful. And then Kolten comes out and almost lays a goose egg offensively here in this series. That's just not getting it done. He struck out 5 out of his 14 at bats. And so he's I think maybe trying to make this could just be conjecture here. I think maybe he's trying to make the moment bigger than it is and trying to do too much instead of just put the bat on the ball like he usually does. And he's swinging right through it, and it's just not working out. But so he's my 0, if you will. My 1 for. He's my 1 for. So the final series kicks off right now. Or the final, not the final series, not the final game. Game 4 of the last series to talk about.
Got it.
My brain is very jumbled right now.
We've been talking about a lot of stuff, so.
Yes, we have.
Don't blame you.
Is kicking off right now between San Francisco and the Dodgers. And this one, I admittedly have not been able to watch. It is at the worst possible time for someone in the East Coast. So I get to watch about 3 innings, and then I have to go to sleep. So I don't really have a hero or 0 for this series, but I think you've watched a little bit more than me. So I'll let you take this one on your own.
I think you have one hero at least that you wanted to talk about. That's Logan Webb.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me get his stats pulled up. I had too many tabs, and I think I might have accidentally closed it. But Logan
looks
Webb,
like the Braves have finished it off.
Yes, they did.
So Logan Webb pitched 7 2/3 in Game 1. No one expected this. Like, he was on quite a nice run, but when you face him up against the Dodgers, you don't expect him to go that deep in a game and completely shut them down.
Yeah, he went 7 2/3 of 5-hit, no run baseball on, I believe, 92 pitches. So an absolute dominant showing by Logan Webb, and basically preserving that bullpen for games 2, 3, and 4. So really, really big spot there, and he owned it. So, and I think, did he go up against Scherzer? Who pitched game? No, it was Buehler.
Walker Buehler, yeah.
Yeah, who also pitched a really good game, I think, right?
He pitched well. Buster Posey had the big blow in the first inning, a 2-run homer that bounced and then splashed down. So that was pretty awesome for a right-handed hitter to do that. And then Brandon Crawford also hit a homer in that game. Then the Dodgers took game 2, and then in game 3, this was probably the most surprising single game that's happened in the playoffs so far, and that was with Alex Wood pitching for the Giants. The Giants end up winning this game 1-0 on a home run by Evan Longoria, who's my hero for this series.
Off of Max Scherzer.
Off Max Scherzer, who normally when you see that Max Scherzer struck out 10 in 7 innings, you'd say, oh, the Dodgers definitely won this game. But that was not to be because, Alex Wood was able to gut through 4 2/3. Then they handed off to the bullpen, got it to Camilo Doval, who pitched the final 2. And the last play of the game was an absolute rocket by Gavin Lux that would have gone out of the park any other day than yesterday because the winds were absolutely howling, and it knocked this ball down that was pretty near 110 miles per hour at a 22-degree launch angles. It had an 890 expected batting average. Lux was cheering, and he looked so confused when this ball just died on the warning track.
Dang.
Yeah,
I had heard about it, and I had seen video of the wind. I think maybe Brandon Belt, or one of the lefties Brandon Belt's not in the series, so it wasn't him for sure. Corrected myself that time. You can't do it. Ha. Yeah, one of the lefties was up, and his shirt almost blew open. Like, the wind was that hard. Like, it was buttoned all the way up, and it almost blew wide open. But yeah, so Longo is your hero.
Longo is my hero. He, hasn't had that much success with the Giants. I think this would be his first postseason with the Giants. Obviously, he had a lot of success with the Rays, but this was kind of like his real signature moment as a Giant to hit that home run while the wind was blowing. I don't know if it just stopped at that point, but he crushed that ball, and that was the only damage they could muster off Scherzer in the game.
All right, and then who's your zero for that series, or do you have one? Because it's been a really good series.
Zero.
For you, I can
tell. No one really sticks out in my mind. Yeah, I guess we still have time in Game 4 and a potential Game 5 to find our zero.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see. And we will, I guess, update on our zero for the series whenever we do our championship series preview, which should be pretty soon. We'll basically just have to wait until the San Francisco and LA series is over. And then we will let you guys know through Twitter or Facebook when we're going to be recording that episode. So make sure you're following us on Twitter and or Facebook. Or go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor. What are all the others? Let's list them all out. If it as soon as I say let's list them all out, then it takes forever to load. So Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Overcast, Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Stitcher, as well as Spotify and Anchor. So follow us on there, subscribe to us so that you get notifications whenever we post new episodes. We have video episodes over on YouTube if you've never found those or don't watch us on Twitch. Follow us on Twitch if you want to watch us record live. And let us know what you think of the podcast. Find a comment section, either Facebook, Twitter, YouTube comment section. I think some of the podcast apps have review features, so you can put it there. And just let us know what you think. And yeah, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And you guys have a great day.